Now, filming has officially started for Power Origins Season 1. Over on X last month, I posted that Power Origins was confirmed to begin filming next month, which would be November. That was after 50 Cent did an interview mentioning he's got a lot of shows on the go at this moment. He mentioned Raising Kanan, Fightland, but he also mentioned Power Origins would be filming in the following month. And we've now got our first look at a young Ghost and Kanan on the set of Power Origins Season 1. Or should I say, not that young anymore. But I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions when it comes to Origins Season 1. When will we get more news on casting for Origins? When are those deadline articles going to drop where we get those descriptions and news around what players they've casted for the first season? I do have a lot of news that I've been keeping on the back burner for when I did a Power Origins breakdown. There are some other BTS images that I want to go through. We've got Hailey Kilgore, who also plays a young Jukebox, answering some questions whether she's actually going to be coming back for Origins. So definitely going to be tying everything together in one, rounding up with all the news for Power Origins that has been floating around on social media. And that's the topic of today's breakdown, as we take a bit of a break from Power Book 4 Force. I do think it's been a great season so far. I do feel like Gary Lennon has brought a lot of the OG Power vibes back to the world of Power that I do think was missing from previous seasons and definitely from Book 2 Ghost. You've got the political element returning, the cartel vibes. Everybody seems to be against Tommy Egan in this last season, just like everybody was against Ghost in the last season of Original Power. So definitely a lot to look forward to going into episode 3 and also the rest of the season of Force. But let's get into the young Ghost and Kanan, the first look for Power Origins Season 1. And I know what a lot of you guys are thinking already. He doesn't resemble anything like Ghost, and I'm going to come to that in just a moment, so just hold on to that thought. But he is also a bit taller than Mackay Curtis, who still also will be playing Kanan. There's a bit of a height difference, not by much, and that's something I don't think matters too much when you're filming. The one thing I noticed during the last seasons of Power was Michael Rainey Jr. was actually the same height, or in and around the same height as Omari Hardwick towards the end of Power Season 6, but it didn't always seem it. With camera angles, scene manipulation, they can definitely change that if they want. Now, I don't actually think this is a scene of them filming. There's no cameras rolling from what we can see, so it just seems like it's just them chilling, grabbing a bite to eat. Maybe they're just having a bit of a break from filming. We've also got Kanan, who does look a little bit older as well. And I do think they probably most likely will be a time jump at least into the late 90s, maybe into the early 2000s. On that one, I'm not 100% sure. You've got Ghost with a long jacket, the trench coat, the braids, the chain, the turtleneck. Definitely not the Ghost that we're used to seeing on Power, but just like with Duke, we do need to see that transition. They definitely won't be the same seasoned drug dealers we're used to on Power, but they do look like they're going to be in the game. It does look like they're going to get straight into them being in the streets. There's going to be no messing around. Now, with that being said, I'm going to mention something that I mentioned during my breakdown for when they did announce a young Ghost and Tommy's casting. I know a lot of people are going to say this looks nothing like Ghost, but Spencer Moore is a very good actor, and if there's one thing we should take away from Sasha Penn's work with Raising Kanan, and just Raising Kanan as a whole, they nailed every single one of the cast members that we see on our screens. They would have done their due diligence. They probably had actors that did also resemble Omari Hardwick a lot more than Spencer Moore, but they probably weren't the right fit in terms of what they bring to the role. Obviously, they've gone with Spencer Moore, and I have full confidence in Sasha Penn and whoever else helped make that decision. No doubt Sasha Penn is sitting on the sidelines thinking, you guys just wait until you see him in action, and then we'll talk. So let's have a bit of patience, because this is the one we've all been waiting for. We've been waiting to see a young Kanan, Ghost and Tommy running the streets, running those missions, and I do think Sasha Penn will know what he's doing. There's a reason why Raising Kanan is the best spin-off. And maybe after season 5, there may even be a very good argument to be had whether it's actually the best Power show out the lot. But that's young Ghost and Kanan. Definitely let me know what you think in the comment section. I do think a lot more BTS shots will drop because they will be filming for a while. Season 1, as we know, is 18 episodes, so that will take them well into the new year, into 2026. But what about Duke? Will we see Duke at any point in Power Origins as well? Now, Hailey Kilgore, for anybody who's been up to date with her career, she has been busy booking a lot of other roles. She did also do a Q&A where someone asked her whether she would be in Power Origins, and her answer was pretty short, sweet, straight to the point. It was just no with a smiley face. I'm not sure whether that means a complete no, you're not going to see Jukebox at all, or whether she'd still be open to the idea of returning maybe for an episode or two, a small scene or a small appearance. The reason why I say that is because we do know from history that Tommy and Ghost did know who Jukebox was from the hood.
You look good, Ghost. All dressed up like a fucking civilian. People really believe that act?
And remember Jukebox? Yeah, that fucking crazy bitch. That one.
She told Ghost that he looked good. She also knew Ghost was someone with his head in his books, but vicious with a piece. Tommy mentioned that she was this crazy bitch, and for someone like Tommy to mention that about someone, you know they would have had to have seen some shit. I mean, we as the audience know who Jukebox is and what she's turning into, why she's turning into the character that we saw on Power. Them early heartbreaks and setbacks that she had, her pulling the trigger for the first time in season 4 to save Marvin. I personally would love to see an interaction between a young Ghost, Tommy, and Jukebox. However, having said that, if the timeline is maybe the late 90s or early 2000s, maybe she's left New York already. Maybe she leaves New York towards the end of Raising Kanan. I do think the clues and signs are there for Jukebox to leave New York at the end of Raising Kanan, or the signs will be there for her to leave at some point in the near future in season 5 as well. I do say that because the only thing that's actually keeping her in New York is Marvin. She had that conversation with Aisha towards the end of season 4, where she mentioned she can't leave New York because she can't leave Marvin. But what if Marvin is no longer there? What if Marvin dies in season 5? What if Marvin goes to prison? Where does that then leave Jukebox? We also know from history that she did move to DC where she became a cop. So maybe her story in Raising Kanan actually ends with her losing Marvin, losing the last piece that's keeping her sane, and the last piece that's keeping her in New York, where she then does leave to go to DC. Maybe we don't see her in Power Origins at all. I'm hoping we do still get one special appearance, having old characters return, small Easter eggs from previous shows and seasons. It is always nice to see. But at the same time, Jukebox isn't necessarily needed for the story that they're about to tell. The story is now transitioning over to Kanan running the streets, with a young Ghost and Tommy, and depending on the timeline, we don't exactly know what the plan is for Breeze at this moment in time. I do think he will be in the start of Power Origins, because I do think we just simply have to see that moment when Tommy and Ghost roll up to Breeze's apartment, look him in the eye, hear what they have to say, and actually see that scene for ourselves before Ghost pulls the trigger. As I mentioned in many of my previous breakdowns, perspectives in the world of Power are very important. And when it comes to Breeze's death, we have Ghost's version, which he gave to Tariq towards the end of Power Season 6. We have Kanan's version in Season 3, again in conversation with Tariq. And then we also have Tommy confirming that it was both of them who turned up to Breeze's apartment, and the reason why they killed him was to step up in the street game. But the perspective that we haven't seen is Breeze's. We haven't seen the build up and why. What did Breeze do? Why did Ghost and Tommy go to his apartment and pull the trigger? What was the one last chance that Ghost gave Breeze? And what were his final words? Because I don't think Ghost is a character who would just kill you without looking you in your eyes. At least not someone he said he loved like a brother. Tommy even said they looked him in his eyes. When Ghost also killed Roller, he looked him in his eyes, spoke to him. He really wanted Roller to convince him to change his mind. Ghost really did want to change his mind on pulling the trigger on Roller, and he wanted Roller to give him a reason to change his mind. The same thing with Breeze. I'm definitely expecting at least a conversation when we do see that scene. It definitely will be a very intense scene, to say the least. That scene I also think is very important when it comes to the entire world of Power, because it also sets the stage for betrayal. For example, was Kanan involved? Was there any kind of manipulation in the background? And I do think it will also make a lot of other kills that we see in Power make sense. For example, how Breeze was said to be getting in the way of Ghost's future, just like Ghost was standing in the way of Tariq's towards the end of Power. I am expecting a lot of parallels to come from that scene, so hopefully we do see it at some point in Power Origins Season 1, 2, or maybe 3. However they plan to do it, I do think it is a must-see for us Power fans. But let's move on to a few other social media posts that actually tease a young Kate Egan and also Jarita. Now, this was actually from the story of Charlie Mann, who's playing the young Tommy Egan, and in the back, you can see the names Kate Egan and Jarita during the table read. Kate is someone we already knew that would have to be in the show, the relationship that we've seen between Tommy and Kate over the years of Power and Force. Again, just like the Breeze scenario, this is another must-see for us Power fans. What was Kate and Tommy's relationship like when they were younger? The actors that they've cast for Ghost and Tommy, they do look like they're going to be in their late teens, maybe even going into their early 20s. So we may not see a young Tommy Egan suffering where he had to steal food from Mrs. Jenkins next door, but they can definitely cast another young Tommy Egan to play a role in flashbacks, where there is an episode that maybe is more Tommy and Kate focused. They did that by casting a young Kanan, which we saw in the flashback way back in Season 1, Episode 1. They ran the story back to 1995, where we saw him struggling dealing with the bullies in Baisley Park, where Rock grabbed him and made him stand up to them. She gave him no choice but to deal with them or deal with Rock. And who's scarier? Definitely Rock. But they can cast another young Ghost and Tommy to play younger versions in flashbacks, just to add even more depth if they wanted to, just like they also did with Famous in Raising Kanan Season 4. They've got 18 episodes to really flush out the Power Origin story out, and that's just Season 1. So they've definitely got a lot of time to build a story around Kate Egan, her backstory, her early life, and her struggles. The other day I mentioned that she's definitely not Mother of the Year, that's for sure. But the thing is, we actually don't know what Kate had to go through back in the 90s or early 2000s. We don't know what she struggled with. It's easy to judge a book by its cover, but it's only when you start digging into the book, reading the chapters, understanding what the person went through to then get to the person that we saw in power, would we then understand the why. Why was she addicted to drugs? Did something happen that we don't know? And maybe, just maybe, we may just see Kate in a different light or a different perspective. Now, on Jorita, for those who may have forgotten, this is Sean's mother. So I'm actually glad they haven't retconned this particular plot from Power. It does seem like Sasha Penn is trying to stay true to the story of Power as much as possible. And I wouldn't actually be surprised if we do see Jorita being introduced in Raising Kanan Season 5. Let's not forget, Crystal has just been killed. So maybe they introduce Kanan's new love interest, who will then end up being Sean's mother. We did also see this scene in an earlier teaser that was released a while back, and I did actually question that we don't actually know who this is. I don't think anybody even entertained the idea that this could actually be Jorita, but this could actually be her that we do see in Season 5. So definitely something just to keep in mind. Jorita does play a big role in Kanan's life by being the mother of his child. She's also a character who seemed extremely loyal back in Power. She kept this bag of cash on the side for Kanan for all those years he was in prison. So Jorita is a character, if they keep the same characteristics, she's going to be someone who I expect to be extremely loyal throughout Raising Kanan Season 5 and also in Power Origins Season 1. But that's a wrap for the latest news on Power Origins. Filming has officially begun in New York. At this moment in time, a young ghost, Tommy and Kanan, are causing chaos somewhere in New York, and we'll probably be able to watch it unfold, hopefully in late 2026. But if not, then it definitely will be around early 2027. Let's hope for the back end of next year for the first 9 episodes, but with Stars' schedule, it's really difficult to tell. But drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section on Young Ghost. Drop all your thoughts on Hailey Kilgore mentioning she won't be returning to Power Origins, and also the casting of young Kate and also Jorita. I am expecting a few deadline articles to follow at some point in the next month, so definitely looking forward to those and also the character descriptions. But as usual, the floor is now yours. Drop all your thoughts and comments down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.